This broken, rusted piece of junk sitting in your hand right now is worth more than every house on your street combined. 8,000 Bitcoin. At today's price, that's not a typo, that's hundreds of millions of dollars, sitting on a drive that was thrown away like garbage. But here's what you don't know yet, standing in that scrapyard holding it. Getting rich from this drive is going to be far, far harder than actually finding it. In fact, 6 months from now, you're going to be standing in front of a courtroom arguing that a pile of trash technically still belongs to you. We'll get there. And there's one number you need to remember from the start, 2,451. That number is going to matter more than the Bitcoin itself. You'll understand why by the end of this video. Let's rewind to a normal Tuesday morning, the last ordinary day of your life. You work at a scrapyard, not glamorous. Long hours, dirty hands, sorting through mountains of discarded metal, old appliances, and electronics that people just want gone. Most days blur together. You separate copper from steel, load crushed cars onto conveyor belts, and go home smelling like rust and diesel. It pays the bills. It's not the life you dreamed of, but it's stable. Today, you're on electronics sorting duty, pulling hard drives and circuit boards out of old computer towers before they get crushed and melted down. It's tedious, repetitive work. And then your hand closes around one drive that just feels different. Heavier somehow, older, with a faded handwritten label still stuck to the side. That label has 3 words on it that you won't fully understand the meaning of until much later in this story. You almost toss it in the bin with the rest. Almost. Something makes you stop. Maybe it's the weight. Maybe it's just curiosity built from years of sorting through junk and occasionally finding something worth keeping. You slip it into your jacket pocket instead of the crush bin. That night at your kitchen table, you plug it into an old USB adapter, mostly expecting nothing but corrupted files and dead pixels. The drive boots. Barely. A few corrupted folders, some old photos, a couple of documents. And then, buried 3 folders deep, a file that makes your stomach drop. You've heard enough about crypto to recognize what that file might be. Hands shaking slightly, you open a separate browser tab and start searching how to check a Bitcoin wallet file, how to recover an old wallet, what wallet that actually means. 2 hours later, using an old wallet recovery tool, a balance finally loads on screen. 8,000 Bitcoin. Sitting in a wallet file on a hard drive you almost crushed for scrap metal 2 hours ago. You don't sleep at all that night. And by morning, you're going to make a decision that most people in your position get catastrophically wrong. We'll get to that in a few minutes. By sunrise, the panic sets in properly. This isn't just found money, it's found money that technically belonged to someone else, thrown away, maybe by accident, maybe not. Your first instinct is to tell someone. Anyone. You almost call your best friend at 6 a.m. before catching yourself and putting the phone down. But the mistake isn't the phone call you almost made. The mistake is what you do 2 hours later. You try to move a small test amount of Bitcoin out of the wallet using a public Wi-Fi network at a coffee shop, on a laptop with no security software, using an exchange account you set up that same morning under your real name. You don't realize it yet, but that single transaction, small, careless, rushed, creates a permanent, traceable link between your real identity and this wallet. That link is going to resurface in a way you really don't expect about 2/3 through this story. For now, though, all you feel is relief. The money moved. It's real. After that first reckless transfer, you finally do the smart thing. You find a lawyer who specializes in crypto disputes and lay everything out on the table, including the mistake you already made. She explains the legal reality you hadn't considered. In most places, property that's knowingly and deliberately discarded, thrown in the trash, dropped off at a scrapyard, handed over for disposal, legally becomes abandoned property. Whoever finds it afterward generally has a real claim to it. But there's a catch, and it's a big one. If the original owner never intended to fully give it up, if it was lost by accident, misplaced during a move, or thrown out by someone else without their permission, the legal picture gets a lot messier. Which brings you back to that label. The lawyer runs the drive's serial number through the scrapyard's intake system, cross-referencing it with drop-off records from years earlier. The records reveal something unexpected. This drive wasn't thrown away carelessly. It was dropped off years ago, during a company office cleanout, by a small failed startup that shut down and liquidated all its old equipment in bulk, including a computer that, apparently, once belonged to an early employee who had mined Bitcoin as a hobby back when it was worth almost nothing. The employee left the company long before it shut down. The drive sat forgotten in a storage closet for years, then got swept up in a mass cleanout when nobody left working there even remembered whose it was, or what was on it. Legally, this changes everything in your favor. The company disposed of it knowingly in bulk with no claim ticket, no retrieval request, and no ownership records tied to any individual. It was, by every legal definition, abandoned. For the first time since finding the drive, you actually believe you might get to keep this. Word travels fast in small industries, and a defunct startup's former founder, hearing rumors that 8,000 Bitcoin resurfaced from an old company hard drive, files a claim, arguing the company never intended to give up anything of value, only broken equipment. This is the scene from the very beginning of this video. Getting rich from this drive really was harder than finding it, not because of the technology, but because of exactly this moment, arguing in front of a judge that a pile of scrap metal doesn't come with hidden ownership strings attached. Your lawyer's argument is simple and well documented. The company signed a bulk disposal agreement years earlier, with no itemized claim on individual components, no retrieval clause, and no record of anyone from the company ever trying to recover it in the years since. After a tense, month-long legal process, the ruling comes down in your favor. The drive and everything on it is legally yours. With the legal battle behind you, you turn your attention back to actually accessing the fortune. And that's when that early, careless transaction comes back around. Because you moved funds through a real exchange account under your real name using unsecured public Wi-Fi. The exchange's compliance system flagged the transaction automatically the moment the balance size became clear. It's not accusation, it's routine. Any sudden movement of this size gets flagged for anti-money laundering review. Thankfully, you now have exactly what you need. The court ruling, the scrapyard records, the full legal paper trail proving every step was legitimate. Weeks later, the exchange clears you fully, and for the first time, you can move the funds properly, securely, and completely legally. With the funds finally secured, you don't cash out all at once. Your advisor walks you through a staged plan, converting a portion now, holding the rest, diversifying into safer assets so one market swing can't erase everything overnight. And this is where that number from the very start of the video finally makes sense. 2,451. That's the exact number of days the drive sat forgotten in that storage closet and scrapyard pile before you ever touched it. Almost 7 years of a fortune sitting quietly in the dark, waiting. 7 years where that Bitcoin could have been lost forever, crushed into scrap metal in a single afternoon if your hand hadn't happened to close around the right drive on the right day. 1 year later, you're not living the version of this story most people imagine when they hear, found 8,000 Bitcoin. You didn't disappear into a life of reckless spending. You quietly funded a small recovery and recycling program at your old scrapyard, better sorting equipment, proper data wiping protocols, and a policy requiring every drive to be checked before it's ever crushed, so the next accidental fortune doesn't slip through unnoticed either way. You kept your job for a few more months out of habit mostly, before finally stepping away, not to stop working entirely, but to start something of your own, something that finally felt like it was actually yours from the beginning. Here's what nobody tells you about finding a fortune like this. The discovery is the easy part. The lawyers, the court battle, the flagged transactions, the sleepless nights proving it was really yours, that's the actual story. So here's a question for you, watching this right now. If you found a drive like this at work tomorrow, would you keep it quiet and get a lawyer first, like this story? Or would you have made the same mistake and told someone right away? Comment your honest answer below. I want to know how many of you would have stayed patient. And if this story kept you here till the very end, subscribe, because every week I put you inside a what-if moment just like this one, and the next one has a twist you will not see coming.